Yo guys, what's up? It's Cherry here, coming at you guys with a new league and a new draft analysis for a league that I personally never thought that I would be invited to. Um, Let alone like invited. Yeah, I said invited, not even applied, just invited. Your boy managed somehow to get into BBL Wi-Fi, and BBL Wi-Fi is just so iconic for many reasons. I remember just sitting on my couch watching league games, watching live streams. Like it's amazing. And the fact that I was able to get in is just mind-boggling, and I can't wrap my head around it. It's crazy. So I just want to say thank you so much to Olivia Sama for sending me that DM late at night, making me think I did something wrong, and giving me the opportunity. I never, like I said, I never thought I would be able to get in a position like this. And I may be overthinking it, but it's so crazy how like it feels like WBE, even though I never got into WBE and I sort of wasn't interested. It feels like you're at a certain point, um, and later on you're like, wow, looking back, I remember I was at this point and now I'm in the point, if that makes sense. But enough chit chat. I just wanted to show my appreciation for somehow getting into BBL Wi-Fi. And there are also many other amazing people in BBL Wi-Fi that all of you should check out in the description below. If I have a paste thing in the description, hopefully I don't forget. So yeah, a lot of good homies, a lot of friends, and I'm so excited to play in this season. But enough chit chat, enough of the intro. Let's get into our picks, our 11 picks for the season. Now I was I was 11th out of 16th, which I personally wasn't a big fan of because I knew things would get sniped, but uh, I didn't have it as bad as other people, but other people were before me and still got sniped, which is kind of funny. Uh, but yeah, enough of that. Let's get into our first pick. Now, I think in an Uber's draft, your first pick should be an Uber. Unless it's like something like Zamazenta Crown, that's not getting taken round one. Stuff like Xerneas and Magearna and things like that are getting taken, not Zamazenta Crown. So I decided to pick up my Uber, except my like 3 or 4 Ubers that I wanted were all sniped from me. So I was like, hey Liv, pick an Uber. She picked Palkia. Um, Palkia is really good. I personally have never used it. I know someone who has. Shout out to Palms. He played in my league last season when we did Ubers because I kind of wanted to copy BBL because, like I said, I never thought I would get in this position. But anyways, he drafted Palkia. He did really well with it, and it seems to function really, really well. So I'm very excited to use Palkia. Base 100 speed is pretty good. Base 150 special attack with spammable stabs are great. Its coverage is good. Water Dragon, in my opinion, is just a really good typing. And yeah, that's pretty much it for Palkia. I'm so excited to use it. And when I drafted Palkia, I was like, hey, I'm going to use some of my regular draft league knowledge. I need a Fairy Dragon Steel Core. And I feel like Palkia forces a lot of switches, so I kind of wanted a lot of momentum on my team. So with my second overall pick, I decided, not second overall, my god, my second round pick, I decided to pick up Clefable. Now Clefable is not as good in Ubers as it is in regular draft, mainly because it gets 2-hit KO'd by pretty much every Uber. Well, pretty much every Uber. But I mainly drafted Clefable as my fairy. Number 2, I drafted it because all I know is regular draft league, and regular draft league has taught me that Clefable is a good mon. And 3, I drafted it for Unaware. I've used Clefable in, I think, the BBL tournament as well as some speed tours, and Clefable has been useful for Unaware and stopping setup. In Ubers, it's not really like there's not a lot of passive play because there's a lot of power. So you can like get in a sticky situation if you pivot out and your opponent starts setting up on you, and that's why Clefable, in my opinion, was really really good to stop setup. So, and also it gives me my first rocker, gives me teleport, gives me a wish passer, a cleric, gives me some utility options with toxic and thunder wave and stuff like that. So I'm really really excited to use Clefable with Palkia, and I hope it will do me well, like it's been doing in my other leagues. So, yeah, that's pretty much it for Clefable. And moving on into our round 3 pick, I was debating between two things. I was debating between Lando T and Zapdos because, note to self and note to all of you, I don't think you guys should focus on one Mon when you're drafting your entire roster. However, I did that. I was like, Marshadow's scary. So I was thinking like Lando T gives me Intimidate. I like Intimidate. Intimidate on teams is really really good. But at the same time, Zapdos gives me an electric that I will need down the line. It's more consistent, gives me static, because I think speed control is really, really important in the Uber scene, especially in Uber's draft league. So I decided at the in the end to pick up Zapdos. Zapdos gives us another base 100 mon, gives us a bulky bird that can be offensive in some weeks. Gives us static, gives us our first defogger, gives us another way in pivot with U-turn and volt switch. A pretty good spammable flying type attack with Hurricane rather than Landorus, which it only gets fly. So it's, in my opinion, not really a flying type, in my opinion. It feels like a ground type with Levitate. But yeah, and Heat Wave gets access to Heat Wave, and like I said, gets a lot of utility options, Thunder Wave, Toxic, and it's a really good Bootsmon. So very very excited to use Zapdos. I'm gonna be using it. I don't know how I'm gonna use it. I've never used it before. I've been playing Draft League since 2017, and the fact that I haven't used Zapdos is just absolutely crazy. But I haven't used it before. But from what I have seen, it's a really really good like defensive pivot, and I think a defensive pivot will be really really nice on a Palkia team. And so far. So yeah, that's pretty much it for Zapdos. And moving on into our round 4 pick, I was like, I need to pick up a fire type. And I'm known for drafting bulk. I've had enough bulk to where you're like, where's the offense? So I was like, a fire type that can pivot in, maybe take a hit or two, and be annoying would be nice. So I decided to pick up Rhodum Heat. Rhodum Heat with Zapdos kind of seems a little redundant. However, it gives me another defogger. It gives me utility with Thunder Wave, Wisp, and Toxic, and Pain Split. A decent spammable fire attack and overheat, and another pivot mon with Volt Switch. And it seems okay. Here when I was drafting during the draft, I'm like, fire types are gonna start going, so I think I prepped for the worst. And the fire types did semi go, but I realized that fire types are not really too needed in Ubers. It's nice to have, but it's not really that necessary. So I can see myself using Rotom this season. Like I said, as a defensive pivot, come in, take a hit, maybe click Pain Split or Wisp, and then Volt Switch out. So yeah, that's pretty much it for Rotom Heat. Very, very excited to use it with Zapdos and with Clefable and making my pivot core that I already have, which is nice. Moving on into our round 5 pick, I originally picked up Scissor because Kurt DMs me like, yo, I want Zamazenta to Crown. It'd be amazing if you don't pick it. And I'm just gonna spoil it right now. If you DM me something like that, I'm probably gonna let you have whatever you want. Because I don't like ruining other people's drafts for myself. It's kind of well, not selfish. It's kind of weird, and I overthink that a lot. So I was just like, you know what, whatever, you can have it. Who cares? So I picked up Scissor, but at the end of the draft, Incog drops Urshifu single strike. So, you know, your boy had to make it happen. I got Urshifu single strike. I've never used Urshifu single strike. All I know is it clicks 3 buttons: Wicked Blow, Close Combat, and U-turn. It's a good Bandit mon, it's a good Scarf mon, it's a good like Wise Glasses mon. It's good at what it does. And shout out to TRT77, throwback to WPF, where I lost, I think the only game I lost in my 8-game win streak or 9-game win streak was against TRT, and it was because of Urshifu single strike. And that's also why I lost the semifinal. So very, very excited to use Urshifu. I am kind of scared that I may not use it correctly, or I may not use it the most optimal, but I'll ask Liv, or I'll just cry in pain. So yeah, that's pretty much my second Uber. It was considered an Uber, and I can't really pick up any more. So there it is. Urshifu single strike gives me a dark type, a fighting type, uh, momentum with U-turn that another mon in my draft didn't give me, and overall, in my opinion, is a really, really good mon for this team. Moving on into our round 6 pick, uh, I realized I did the, when I said, oh, I was focused on Marshadow. Yeah, I did that thing again. I was like, I don't have a switch into Xerneas outside of Rhodum, and Rhodum's not reliable, so I'm just gonna pick up Blissey. And Blissey with Clefable is kind of weird, but Blissey is amazing in Uber's format. Just looking at calcs, like, Xerneas does nothing to this thing if it's special. Dialgas do nothing to this thing unless it's mixed. Kyurem White does nothing to this thing. Like, it's literally a tank, and it's crazy. And I feel like it fits this team really well. Gives me another rocker. Gives me just a good heavy-duty bootsmon that can come in, tank a hit, and teleport out. Which, contributing on to that, gives me another pivot mon with teleport. And just is overall a really good mon. I don't know how I feel about it with Clefable, but it wouldn't be a cherry team if I did draft Double Wish. So we can also have really powerful wishes as well. But yeah, that's pretty much it for Blissey. Like I said earlier, I'm so excited to use Blissey on this team as well as with Clefable. I'm excited to see where I go with that. Moving on into our round 7 pick. Yep, round 7 pick. I was like, I don't have a Dracovish switch in or answer, and Dracovish was drafted, and I needed a grass type, so I just picked up Tangela. Tangela is meant for two things. It's meant to be a pretty physically bulky wall, and it's meant to switch into Dracovish. Those are its only two uses. But it gets knockoff, it gets Giga Drain, it gets Stun Spore, I know for sure it gets Toxic. It gets Leech Seed, it can be a good utility annoying mon, regenerator as well. And it can be a really, really good defensive mon if I play it right. I feel like I'll only use it as a physically defensive check, but I'll see if I can get creative with it and toy with it. So yeah, and like I said, it's for the Dracovish matchup as I have nothing for it so far. So yeah, that's pretty much it for Tangela. I completed my Fire, Water, Grass core, and I'm looking pretty good. Now, moving on into our round 8 pick, I originally drafted Scrafty. Scrafty was a dark fighting type, same as Urshifu, gave me Intimidate, gave me a bulky pivot. I have 2 Wish Passers and a lot of pivot. I felt that it would be really, really good. But because I picked up Urshifu Single Strike, I had to drop it, and because of that, I had no steal, because I dropped Scissor. But your boy Incog once again not only drops Urshifu Single Strike, but drops Reggie Steel. So your boy had to hop on Reggie Steel. I used Reggie Steel last season in my league when it was Ubers with like Kyurem White. I'm never using Kyurem White again. And it's amazing. I like Reggie Steel with Clefable. I think that's really, really cool. And it's just a really good bulky wall. It can click rocks, click toxic. It can click Iron Defense Body Press, Seismic Toss. It can run Rest Talk. And it can just do a lot of things. Also can be offensive with Curse and Iron Head and things like that. So Reggie Steel I feel like would be another good defensive pivot. And I have a lot of pivot on my team, so it's a reliable switch into a good amount of things in the draft, in the Ubers draft, in Uber specifically. So Very, very excited to use Reggie Steel. I'm also not really worried that it doesn't get reliable recovery. As I said earlier, I have 2 Wish Passers, and I think I'm looking pretty good in that area. So very, very excited that I get to use Reggie Steel again, and so excited that I was able to grab it. Thank you, Incog. I appreciate that. Moving on into our round 9 pick, you know, I had to do it. I had to do it. I needed a ghost type. I needed a grounded poison. I had to do it. I got Gengar. Uh, Gengar is just awesome, man. I'm using it in my league right now because I did a challenge. I was like, hey, I'm only gonna draft mons I've never used before, and Gengar, love at first sight. It does what it does so well. It breaks so many things. It does so much damage, and it's a fairy check. Well, not defensively, but it can deal with fairies, aka Xerneas. That's the main issue that we're having. But it has good coverage with like Energy Ball and Thunderbolt. It has reliable stabs. I think it gets Psychic as well and Dazzling Gleam, and it just, like I said, it does a lot of damage. Base 110 speed, so now I have something faster than Palkia. And with all the pivot on my team, I feel like Gengar would be amazing. And I can't wait to use Gengar yet in another league. So, yeah, that's pretty much it for Gengar. And we're going to jump right into our 10th pick. I originally had Mudstale, but because I picked up Urshifu Single Strike and Reggie Steel, I had to drop Mudstale. And shout out to some people that were commenting about my draft. I realized that I had no Psychic type. So, we have an old face again from my league experience, Claydol. Claydol helps with the speed gap that I currently have with my team around like base 60 and like base 86 with Rhodum. It helps with that. It gives me another way of removing hazards and a Stealth Rocker. Gives me a Psychic type, a good utility mon. I think it gets Thunder Wave. If it doesn't get Thunder Wave, then I know for sure it gets Toxic. Gives me more pivot with Teleport. Like, I love the momentum I have with this team, especially with Urshifu Single Strike. Like, imagine Urshifu Single Strike, Palkia, Zapdos, Gengar, Rhodum, offensive Rhodum some weeks. Like, it's just crazy. So I'm very, very excited that I managed to snag Claydol. It's also a ground immunity, which I have Tangela to switch in, Rhodum, Zapdos, stuff like that, but Claydol is another added on switch in that can really, really help in some weeks. So very, very glad that I managed to get, and it's 3 points. That's such a steal. But another steal. Wow, that was such a terrible transition. My bad, guys. But yeah, that's pretty much it for Claydol. It's very bulky, helps with speed tiers, rocker, rapid spinner, more pivot, gets decent coverage, and good utility options. Now, moving on into our final pick, I originally wanted to save my points. This was when I had like a Mudstale, Scrafty, and Scissor. I wanted to save my points, which I saved 1 point, and that 1 point allowed me to get Reggie Steel, Urshifu, Single Strike, and Claydol. So, always, if you're in a point draft and you don't like anything that's left, always save your points. It will always come in handy. So I wanted to do that here, and I told, shout out to Ultra Player, I was like, yo, I'm done the draft, and then I just get a ping from him to pick. So, you know, and ironically, I actually sniped him. That's so funny. But I managed to get Shuckle. Shuckle at 3 points is really, really good in my opinion. It's a good suicide lead with rocks and webs. Also gives us Toxic and Encore and Infestation. Can be really, really annoying. The only thing that's wrong with Shuckle is its setup fodder, which I have Encore like I said, but if I play with that wrong, then I could be in a really bad spot. It's also kind of walled by bulky steals and just steals in general, so I'll have to be careful with that. But nonetheless, Shuckle's a really, really good mon for 3 points. Gives me more hazards that I kind of felt I needed, and a web mon, and kind of forces my opponents to bring defog at least on 1 mon. So, because my hazard removal for 1 isn't really the best, but it's manageable. So, yeah. That's pretty much it for Shuckle, and that's pretty much it for our entire draft. If you guys are excited for this, drop a comment below. I'm very excited. I'm excited for many reasons. One, I get to use Urshifu Single Strike. I've never gotten the chance to. Two, I get to play with a lot of people that I watch and a few people that I look up to. Three, it's a very friendly BBL is a very friendly community, and the fact that I'm able to experience that on another level is amazing. And four, like, it feels like it's crazy. The fact that I managed to get all of this, the fact that by all of this, I'm referring to getting in the league and playing with amazing people. Like, I can't, like, wrap my head around that. Like, that's awesome. But yeah, that's gonna be it for the draft analysis. I thank you all for watching if you made it this far. And everybody be safe. The world is opening up slowly but surely, but I would still be on guard. Watch yourself, and yeah. So once again, thank you all for watching, and I will catch you guys next time. Peace.